In the world of YouTube boxing media, the lines between news, entertainment, and opinion are increasingly blurred. What was once a platform for fans to get closer to the sport has now become a battleground of bias, subjectivity, and favoritism. Today, we'll dive deep into how these factors are shaping the way boxing is reported, the narratives being pushed, and the impact on the sport itself. Welcome to a special report on YouTube boxing media, where we uncover the truth behind the content you consume. Boxing has always been a sport filled with drama and controversy, but in recent years, the rise of YouTube channels has added a new layer of complexity. These platforms, while offering access to fighters and behind-the-scenes action, have also become breeding ground for biased reporting, subjective analysis, and blatant favoritism. Let's start with bias. It's no secret that many YouTube boxing channels have clear preferences when it comes to fighters, promoters, and even networks. This bias often dictates the content they produce, from the headlines they choose to the way they frame stories. The result? A skewed perception of reality that can influence fans and even the fighters themselves. For example, after a major fight, you'll see channels that are clearly aligned with one fighter or promoter spinning the narrative to fit their agenda. A close fight is called a robbery by one channel and a masterclass by another. The truth often lies somewhere in between, but fans are left confused and divided. These channels know their audiences and cater to them. If a channel's subscriber base leans towards certain fighters or promoters, you can bet the content will reflect that. It's about keeping the viewers engaged, even if it means sacrificing objectivity. Now let's talk about subjectivity. Boxing is a sport where opinions matter, but there's a fine line between offering a perspective and distorting the facts. Unfortunately, many YouTube boxing channels have crossed that line. In the race to be the first to break news or provide analysis, some channels prioritize sensationalism over accuracy. They'll report rumors as facts, speculate without evidence, and present their opinions as if they're undisputable truths. This not only misleads their audience, but also undermines the credibility of boxing journalism as a whole. It's frustrating to see channels report on boxing without verifying their sources. They'll take a tweet or an offhand comment and run with it, turning it into a full-blown narrative. And when they're wrong, there's rarely any accountability. It's all about the clicks and the views. Now, let's address favoritism. This is perhaps the most pervasive issue in YouTube boxing media. Whether it's due to personal relationships, financial incentives, or simply a preference for certain fighters, favoritism skews the content in a way that can be damaging to the sport. It's common to see certain fighters getting extensive, glowing coverage on some channels, while others are ignored or criticized no matter what they do. This favoritism can shape public perception, making some fighters seem more important or talented than they actually are, and others less so. Favoritism in media is nothing new, but the difference with YouTube is the scale and the influence. These channels have thousands and sometimes millions of subscribers, and their content can sway public opinion in ways traditional media never could. When a channel shows clear favoritism, it can create a false narrative that becomes hard to shake. Another issue plaguing YouTube boxing media is the lack of proper credit given to original sources. In the rush to be the first to break news, many channels fail to acknowledge the journalists or outlets that did the actual reporting. This lack of credit not only disrespects the hard work of legitimate journalists, but also contributes to the spread of misinformation. When stories are passed around without giving proper credit, important details can be lost or distorted. It's disheartening when you see your work being used by someone else without any acknowledgement. In some cases, they'll even twist the story to fit their narrative, completely ignoring the original context. This isn't just unethical, it's damaging to the integrity of boxing journalism. Lastly, let's talk about the rise of non-boxing podcasts getting exclusive interviews with fighters. While it's great to see boxing reaching new audiences, this trend also highlights a shift in how the sport is covered and who gets access to the athletes. With the popularity of podcasts exploding, fighters are increasingly choosing to appear on shows that aren't specifically focused on boxing. While this helps them reach a broader audience, it also means that traditional boxing media is often left out in the cold. There's definitely a sense of frustration among boxing journalists and YouTubers who have been covering the sport for years, only to see these big interviews go to mainstream podcasts. It's a reminder that at the end of the day, it's all about reach and visibility. So where does that leave us? The landscape of boxing media is changing, and YouTube is at the forefront of that change. While these channels have brought the sport closer to fans than ever before, they also introduce new challenges in terms of bias, subjectivity, favoritism, and ethics. As fans, it's up to us to be discerning viewers, to question what we're being told, and to seek out diverse perspectives. The future of boxing media is uncertain, but one thing is clear. We need to demand better, more responsible coverage of the sport we love. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Thank you for watching, and most importantly, stay passionate about the sport of boxing. Enjoy the fights.